On the last night of the year, while the city was counting down to midnight, one house stayed silent. Not peaceful. Silent. The kind of silence that feels arranged. A two-story home near a narrow river path in West Tokyo. A family of four. A father, a mother, and two children who should have been waking up the next morning to a new year. In this retelling, their names have been changed. Kenji Arai, his wife Rina, their daughter Mio, their little son Haru. They were not famous. They were not criminals. They were not people anyone expected to see in a murder file. And that is the first thing that makes this case so disturbing. Because the killer did not just enter their home. He stayed. He moved through their rooms. He touched their belongings. He used their computer. He opened their kitchen. He ate from their freezer. He left behind clothing, fingerprints, biological evidence, and objects that should have made him easy to identify. And still, more than 2 decades later, no one has been convicted. Before we go further, remember, this episode is inspired by a real unsolved case, but the names and some narrative details have been changed. The facts at the center remain the same kind of nightmare: a family home, a winter night, a killer who seemed to vanish from a room full of evidence. If you are drawn to mysteries that refuse to close, subscribe, like the video, and turn on the notification bell. Because this is not just a story about what happened inside a house. It is a story about what evidence can say, and what it still cannot prove. The Arai home sat beside a quiet park and a narrow river path. During the day, the area felt almost ordinary. Children walking home from school, bicycles passing along the fence, families moving through the last errands of December. At night, it became something else. The river swallowed sound. The trees hid movement. The houses were close enough to see, but not close enough to save anyone. On December 30th, the family had been preparing for the holiday. There were small signs of ordinary life everywhere. Winter clothes, school things, a computer desk, food in the kitchen, a calendar leaning toward January. Nothing about those details feels important until after a crime. Then everything matters. A chair pushed back, a drawer left open, a light that should have been turned off, a shoe near the wrong doorway. The last ordinary objects become witnesses. Sometime that night, a man entered the home. Investigators would later believe he may have come in through an upper part of the house, possibly from an area near the back. That detail matters because this was not a simple front door robbery. It suggests planning, or at least confidence. He entered a home where 2 children were sleeping, and at some point, the house erupted into violence. What happened next is not described here for shock. It does not need shock. The truth is already heavy enough. By morning, all 4 members of the family were dead. But the most unsettling part of the case begins after the killings, because most intruders run. They panic. They grab whatever they came for. They flee before a neighbor hears something, before a patrol car passes, before the world catches up. This killer did not act like that. He stayed inside the house for hours. Think about that. Not seconds, not a desperate minute. Hours. Inside a home where an entire family had just been murdered, the intruder moved around with a calm that still makes investigators uneasy. He used the computer. He handled documents. He opened the refrigerator or freezer. He ate ice cream. He drank from the kitchen. He used the bathroom. He left clothing behind. He left fingerprints. He left DNA. It is almost as if he had no fear of being found. Or as if he believed no one would know who he was anyway. That is where the case turns from brutal to strange. Because the house was not empty of clues. It was full of them. The killer left behind items of clothing, including garments that investigators could trace to commercial products. He left a bag or pouch. He left traces on surfaces. He left a weapon linked to the attack. He left physical evidence that, in another case, might have ended the investigation quickly. Instead, the evidence created a maze. Fingerprints did not match anyone in the local criminal databases. DNA did not produce a name. The clothing suggested possible shopping routes, possible regions, possible habits, but not a person. The killer was everywhere in the house, and nowhere in the world. There are moments in cold cases when one detail becomes almost impossible to stop thinking about. In this one, there are too many. Why stay? Why eat? Why use the computer? Was he looking for something? Was he waiting for someone? Was he injured and unable to leave immediately? Or did he simply enjoy the control? Investigators studied the timeline with painful attention. Computer activity suggested the killer may have remained in the home into the morning. Some of the activity may have happened by accident or by automatic system behavior. But the possibility remains chilling. A family was gone, and their killer may have still been there while the rest of the neighborhood began waking up. Imagine being a neighbor that morning. The air is cold. The streets are quiet. New Year's decorations are beginning to appear. Somewhere nearby, a house contains a scene no one has discovered yet. The killer may have already walked out, or he may still be inside. When the bodies were found, the investigation moved fast. Police sealed the home. Detectives collected item after item, trace after trace, sample after sample. This was not a case where investigators had nothing. They had too much. And that is another kind of horror. Because evidence creates hope. Every fingerprint says, maybe this is the one. Every fiber says, maybe this leads somewhere. Every DNA sample says, maybe science can finish what fear began. But days became months. Months became years. And the name did not come. The public learned the case through details that felt almost unreal. A killer leaving so many clues. A family destroyed inside a quiet home. A national search. A reward. A case file that kept growing without closing. Theories multiplied. Some people wondered if the killer was a stranger passing through the area. Some believed he knew the neighborhood. Some focused on the clothing, the shoes, the path by the river, the train lines, the possibility that he moved through the city without being noticed. Some looked at the violence and saw rage. Others looked at the evidence left behind and saw disorganization. But the most frightening possibility is simpler. He may have been both careless and lucky, not a criminal mastermind, not a ghost, just someone whose identity never entered the right database. That idea is colder than any conspiracy because it means the evidence may have been clear, but the world had no matching answer. Forensic science kept advancing. Old samples were retested. Databases expanded. Investigators revisited witness statements, purchase records, public tips, and physical traces. The case became one of those files that refuses to die because it feels solvable. The killer left too much behind for this to feel impossible. And yet, year after year, the file returned to the same locked door. No name, no arrest, no courtroom, no final answer for the family left behind. In a mystery like this, it is tempting to build the killer into something larger than human, a shadow, a myth, a perfect predator, but that can be misleading. The person who did this was not a legend. He had hands, he had clothes, he had habits, he had a body that left traces, he had a route into the night. He may have passed a station, crossed a street, walked beside a river, changed clothes, or blended into a crowd waiting for the new year. Someone may have seen him. Someone may have known him. Someone may have noticed a cut, a missing item, a strange silence, a sudden departure. And maybe they did not understand what they had seen until it was too late. That is why cold cases survive. Not because the dead can speak, but because the living may still remember. The Arrive family's story is fictionalized here, but the wound underneath it is real. A home full of evidence, a killer who lingered, and a country still waiting for a name. The final image is not the house. It is not the evidence bag. It is not the fingerprint card. It is a door left open in time. Behind it, a winter night keeps replaying. A computer screen glows. A freezer door shuts. Footsteps move down a narrow staircase. And somewhere, beyond the river path, a person walks away carrying a secret that should have been impossible to keep. If this case stays with you, leave a comment with the detail you cannot stop thinking about. Like the video, subscribe, and turn on the bell for the next reconstructed mystery. Because some cases do not end. They wait. And sometimes, after 20 years, the smallest trace is still waiting for the right person to look again.